When I raise my hands, I expect great things. When I raise my hands, I feel powerful. I know what I want to hear. I know I have their attention, and we are one. When I see the light in their eyes, I feel powerful and I feel invigorated. I feel free, and yet I'm connected. I'm connected to their voices. I'm connected to all of the voices that have gone before. I'm connected to the generations that have gone before me, music teachers and preachers and sojourners of the faith. When I raise my hands, I wait for it. I wait for the sound. It's the unmistakable sound of hearts beating as one and spirits that are united for one cause and one purpose. Not knowing where my hands end and the sound begins, I coax the sound out of their bodies into the air where it remains. When I raise my hands, I'm giving praise to Him who gives me the strength to raise my hands and gives me a reason to sing, a reason to shout, a reason to dance, a reason to praise Him with my whole body. When I raise my hands, I surrender and I give Him my all. When I raise my hands. When I look around in rehearsal and see all my students' faces, I am always struck at their absolute joy and sheer energy. And I am truly inspired by them. They truly invigorate me. Now, mind you, we all have our days, so, we can have our ups and downs, but as a family, when we get together in class, they said to me they always feel better for having been there. And that makes me feel good. That makes me know that gospel music is doing its job. The environment is something that is very important to me, and I want it to be that welcoming so that I can get the best out of them. For me, that's the power of community and the legacy of gospel music. The downbeat after that all-important first breath is truly exquisite.
It's not just typewriter words. Typewriter, I'm dating myself. But you know what I'm saying? It's not just like words on a page. Just think about where it's coming from. Someone who has no idea of freedom is singing, as I look back over my life and I think things over, I can truly say, right? So, we have to grasp the joy and the wonder and the awe that causes somebody, motivates somebody to be able to say that. So, just think about some good things so we can get some good smiles happening and some good stuff happening. It's not all blue and doom.
The idea, even though I wasn't looking for a career change, of moving from high school to being able to teach gospel music at the academic level was just so interesting. I could hardly resist. And so when they came to me to ask me if I would do this, and I agreed, the next thing that came was the nervous questions. Is this music only for Black people? Is this music only for Christians? Is this music going to be something that students are going to want to take? So I've been doing it now, workshops for probably over 20 years. And so I just reassured them, the dean at the time, I said, listen, no one's died yet. We're going to be having a great time. And so very, very in short order, after that first initial year of 20 students, the choir bloomed to 80 students and then to 100 students. And the dean became one of our greatest supporters. He came out with his wife to every concert, and you could see the enthusiasm with the students. Success breeds success. And so it's been so interesting to be able to see the choir sustain support over these past 10 years, and to be able to see other universities and colleges take on the challenge of having a gospel choir.
At the end, this is kind of something we haven't really done as much, but at the end, all I want you to do is just to rock and support. I'm glad about it. That's it. I'm glad about it. Stay. I'm glad about it. Stay. I'm glad about it. because it is an educational experience, I always like to try to shock you right off the top, just so that you know where you are. This is not the classical choir concert. It's not the chamber choir, and just in case. So we do actually stand still from time to time and do things, a little smaller volume. So just hang tight. And this next couple of songs, I think you'll love to be able to hear the different colors that the choir can make. And the one thing about gospel music is that it is not it's not hard to access, but it tends to be very heartfelt.
I make a point of learning every one of the 100 students' names that are registered in my gospel choir course each year. The turnover each year is usually about 40%, and so in those first few weeks, although it's a challenge, it's my privilege to learn their names and to call them by name. If you want to turn a room full of people into a family, learn their names. Dale Carnegie was right. I need them to know that I care about more than just their voice. Learning their names is an important first step. In my classroom, we keep it real. Even though there are 100 students, if something wonderful happens to just one of us, we make a point of celebrating together. Some students even share their rough times, and then, as their family, we get to be there for them. Mary was a quiet girl who kept mostly to herself that first year in the gospel choir course, her gentle smile revealing a soft soul. The second year, she tried out for a couple of solo leads, and as it turned out, she had quite a pleasant voice. I was very happy to see her back. Mary was successful in getting one of the solo opportunities in our year-end concerts. At our Tuesday night dress rehearsal, just before the big weekend performances, Mary came to me apologetically and said that she was sorry, but that she wouldn't be able to make our final concerts. I was surprised because students must declare any concert conflicts weeks in advance. This is what she said to me. My father just died, and the funeral is on Saturday. I was very shocked, to say the least, and asked exactly when her father had died. She said, "This past Friday." "This past Friday?" I queried. "What are you doing here?" She said, "I didn't want to miss our last YUDC class. I really needed to be here." I was astounded. I couldn't believe it. I asked her if she minded if the choir members knew about what had happened to her father. I told her we were going to practice a song that she had the lead in, and asked her, "Do you still want to sing it with us?" "Yes," she said calmly. I gathered the choir together and told them about the passing of Mary's father and the fact that she was here with us. The initial silence was deafening as we stood together and then began to sing Mary's song. The song was "Lean on Me" by Kirk Franklin. I am here. You don't have to worry, I can see your tears. I'll be there in a hurry when you call. Friends are there to catch you when you fall. Here's my shoulder, you can lean on me. There were several teary eyes that afternoon, including mine. Mary sang her solo with a lot of emotion, but a clear voice. It was truly a moving experience for everyone. The students decided on their own to create a huge card of condolences and had everyone sign it. They made arrangements to get the signed card and flowers to Mary. Now that's what I call family. I have received several testimonials from students who've been part of the gospel choir course during their time at the university. They would say things such as, "Tuesdays are the best day of the week for me," or "YAGC is my family." I don't doubt that many students feel this way because I've seen it played out in so many ways through our times together. Here are a couple of testimonials from the end of our recent school year. "Hi, Professor. I couldn't find you after the concert, but I just want to say thank you so much for an awesome 2 days and all the work you've put towards YAGC during the past 10 years. After the rehearsal on Tuesday, I was reminded of how overwhelmed I used to be when I was a student at York. But I remember walking out of choir rehearsal every week feeling like a brand new person again. I think a lot of us choir members could say the same thing. Thanks again for another awesome night and for the 3 years I've been in this choir. I can't wait to see and hear what you have in store for next year." And this one from a graduating student. "Hey, Professor, the past 3 years have been amazing with YAGC. Words can't even begin to express how much I'm going to miss the amazing group of people I got to share my Tuesdays and the stage with. Every single one of you is special and so talented in your own way. Today was the last time I got to share the stage with you guys, and I would not have had it any other way. We killed it like we always do. How many people can say they go to class to learn and have fun and leave with a family of 100 plus people? Thank you for making my time at York more than I could have imagined. I love you all. Hashtag YorkU, hashtag music major, hashtag gospel music, hashtag squad. My colleague at an HBCU, historically Black college and university, recently attended one of my York University Gospel Choir concerts. The choir that he directs at his school has been established as long as the school has been, since the 1800s. However, it's not very well supported, and they presently do not include a lot of gospel music in their repertoire. After witnessing our concert, he had his own epiphany. He was impressed by the multicultural makeup of York's gospel choir. He was also impacted by the sheer joy of these 100 choristers and the obvious recruitment potential of this type of choir. Who could have thought Canadians could teach Americans something about gospel music education? As I sit here working on this project, my inbox is filling up with requests from students who are anxious that they will not get one of the coveted seats in this year's gospel choir. Sometimes I can hardly believe how popular this course has become and the many surprise bonuses that have organically materialized. The strong sense of community, the sense of family, the boldness for first-time soloists, and the development of musicians who love to play gospel music are just a few of the things that were as surprising to me as anyone. And yet, why should I be surprised? No matter where I go, when Canadians hear gospel music, they love it. The opportunity to witness students' transformation from gospel music neophyte into gospel choir champion continues to be an amazing journey. Hopefully, other colleges and universities in Canada will look more closely at including a gospel choir as part of their course offerings. Hallelujah.
This next song is going to be actually led by what my dream would be, is to be able to see more people raised up to be conductors in this music. And if I had my czar wand, I would get a director's course happening here at York for gospel music. But most I can do is look for talented young people and then give them opportunities. So this next song, Giants, is being conducted by a giant of a young man.
When I was growing up at S.R. Drake Memorial Church, it was a wonderful time of music making, community, family, and always gathering together at those special moments, particularly Sunday morning, where my grandmother would be and I would be on the piano, and we would just sing together the great songs that you didn't need the words for, you just knew them, the ones that were very familiar. And so I love to be able to sit with my aunts and uncles, and we learn harmony and we learn these great songs of the faith. There were certain questions that I had, like why was it that my girlfriend from school, who was white, didn't feel comfortable in my church, but I felt comfortable in hers? This was something that I used to think about, even though I loved her church, but it just didn't feel comfortable for her. I also wanted to try to figure out, what was my place and how do we fit in the broader sort of Christendom. But we really were a community that needed each other because we'd found a place to belong. And that's how the church was established. It was established because the people that started it, the slaves that started it, they didn't have a place to belong. But this was our place to belong. And even though the church bore the name of my great-grandfather, it was still not just a family church in the sense, but it was a pillar in the Brantford community.
We're going to 165 Murray Street, my grandmother would say in her no-nonsense voice that meant that we had better get a move on. It was like calling a child by their full name. We knew Florence Jones meant business when she called our family church by its full street address. Drake Memorial Church in Brantford, Ontario was and is a huge part of my family's heritage. The memories which remain of that small but vibrant community infuse everything that I teach and sing today. It would not be a stretch to say that without these experiences, my story would be very, very different. My songs would be different. All the church members were my relatives and close family friends who gathered weekly at Drake Memorial because they needed a place to belong. We grew up very aware of our heritage and proud of the fact that our families were associated with the Underground Railroad. American runaway slaves settled along the Grand River in groups, and free blacks who fought alongside the British also settled in Canada with other loyalists. Unwelcome in white churches, those associated with the African Methodist Episcopal Church formed the Society of Colored Methodists, and by 1834, they were worshiping in separate homes. In 1856, the denomination changed their name from African to British to give their place of worship a greater Canadian identity. The new name also protected the congregation from fear of being recaptured by American slave owners or their bounty hunters. Church was the one place where we could be without fear of discrimination. We were colored people back then, and no matter our station in life, we were always thought of as a lower and separate class. But in church, the various roles of preacher, teacher, deacon, and clerk, held by both men and women, were carried out with great honor and commitment. Drake Memorial Church was a communal place of importance and connection. In 1956, the church was renamed the S.R. Drake Memorial Church after my great-grandfather, Reverend Samuel R. Drake, who was pastor of the church from 1906 to 1909 and general superintendent of the BME Conference for 18 years. This coalition of 9 black churches was established where escaped slaves landed when they made it to freedom in Canada. Some still remain open today as churches and/or historical sites, as in Brantford, Niagara Falls, North Buxton, and Toronto. The new building, erected on Murray Street, was designated an historic site in Brantford on its 130th birthday in 1986.
It's a simple building on a small plot of land, and if you look at it, it just looks like a 2-story building with brick and mortar. But there's so many stories behind those walls, and when you enter into those double doors, you see right away an open room, multi-purpose room, which is where I spent many times Sunday school classes before, church dinners afterwards, and just so many memories that come back. And then there's 2 stairways that go up and to opposite side, but they land to the same place, and it's a landing. And that small landing has a picture of my great-grandfather, S.R. Drake, Reverend S.R. Drake, and also gazing back at him as you look into the sanctuary on the front wall is this wonderful floor-to-ceiling mural that was painted in the 1970s. You know, every time I think about this painting, I get very emotional because it means a lot to me, particularly because it's not there anymore. This mural was of a black Jesus. It was painted by a student out of gratitude to the church, and it depicts him like a candle just coming out of this shack on the hillside. And it just is something that we saw in front of us every Sunday morning. And I don't think I realized how much it impacted my image of Christ. But I know to this day that I just love being able to think of this. And for me, it was so important that on my wedding day, we didn't take pictures the normal way. We got out of the car with my dress on and my husband. We went and stood in front of that picture and had our photo taken. Because for me, that represented who I was. Because I'm in Christ and He's in me. And that is how I think of Him.
Everybody in my family harmonized and sang together. We even sang the blessing around the dinner table when we gathered. Although much of my musical story comes down to me through my mother's family, the Joneses, 12 of my father's brothers and sisters traveled and sang together in the 1940s as the Royal Canadian Harmony Singers, and many of the Johnsons attended our church. At Drake Memorial, I learned by rote all of the spirituals that I teach today, and I learned how to harmonize sitting in church beside my aunts and uncles. The spirituals sung in the 1800s when my ancestors arrived are still being sung today. Like my parents and their parents before them, my faith and my music remained inextricably linked, keeping me connected to the community. My grandparents' presence and the presence of their children and grandchildren each week at Drake Memorial meant that not only did the church doors remain open, but there was always music ringing out through those windows into the streets of our small town. Every gathering included music, and oh, how we sang. I've got a robe, you've got a robe, all of God's children got a robe. When I get to heaven, gonna put on my robe, gonna shout all over God's heaven, heaven, heaven. Everybody talking about heaven ain't going there, heaven, heaven. Gonna shout all over God's heaven.
But we really were a community that needed each other because we'd found a place to belong. And that's how the church was established. It was established because the people that started it, the slaves that started it, they didn't have a place to belong. But this was our place to belong. And even though the church bore the name of my great-grandfather, it was still not just a family church in the sense, but it was a pillar in the Brantford community.
We used the Methodist hymnal. It was a formal collection of great hymns of the church, including the ones written by the great Methodist preacher and hymn writer John Wesley. I cut my teeth on these hymns, playing the piano beside my grandmother, Florence, who was our church organist for over 40 years. We sang out of the hymnal, but we would also use it like a tambourine at times, and so these books became well-worn but beloved. Florence Jones, née Drake, was a powerhouse of a woman who loved God, her family, and the church in that order, and with a passion that was evident to everyone that met her. Grandma knew everyone in Brantford, it seemed. Grocery trips seemed to take forever because down every aisle, she would meet someone else she knew and strike up a new conversation. She was not only the church organist, but the church clerk and the secretary of the BME conference. Like her father before her, Florence Jones served her church well. My grandfather, Laverne Jones, was a well-known basso profundo who was 13 years her senior. He married Florence, his accompanist, in 1935. Grandma was a freedom fighter in her own right, making sure to march herself down to the school if there was even a hint of discrimination visited upon any of her children. My grandmother taught me everything that I needed to know about being a church musician while playing the piano every Sunday beside her. We didn't only sing out of the Methodist hymnal, but we also used the soft-covered Songs of the Gospel, or the Little Blue Book, as we called it. Like so many of us in black churches, both here and in the U.S., these were the songs that I loved the most, the gospel songs that, even though we had the words in print, we didn't need them, because the songs were so familiar to us. We learned these songs from those that had gone before us. By and by, when the morning comes, all the saints of God are gathered home, and we will tell the story, how we've overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by. Oh, by and by, when the morning comes, oh, all the saints of God are gathered home, we will tell the story, how we've overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by. Drake Memorial is part of my story because this is the place where I nurtured my connection to my blackness in an otherwise all-white, small Ontario city. I am often overcome with thankfulness for the legacy of music handed down to me through my childhood church. Gospel music is not just what I do. It is the safe place for my story. Maya Angelou once said, "Hold those things that tell your history and protect them." During slavery, who was able to read or write or keep anything? The ability to have somebody to tell your story to is so important. It says, "I was here. I may be sold tomorrow, but you know I was here."
Each year I audition students, probably 40 to 50 students every year, for the York University Gospel Choir. And this particular day, a young man came to my office. And he sort of nervously entered, and I said, come on in, and asked him normal questions. Why are you here? Do you know anything about gospel music? And this guy said to me, he said, I don't really know anything about gospel music. He said, but there is this show called Sunday Best that I watch. That's the only thing I know. Now, Sunday Best is a show that Kirk Franklin has, and it's basically like an American Idol, but for gospel singers. But the cool thing about it is that they talk a lot about what gospel music is and what it isn't, and it has these great performances by singers that are critiqued. So if you're trying to figure out what gospel music is, it's kind of like a class. So I said to him, hey, if this is what you've been using to figure out what gospel music is, it's not bad at all. And so he went on to say, what the connection was for him with the show. And he says, I want to sing like that music. I really like it. He said, but every time I try to sing it, I start crying and I can't finish, and I don't know what that is. And so I kind of inwardly was smiling to myself. I thought, this guy needs to be in the choir so that he can get the full picture. And for me, it was like an epiphany, and a reminder again of the power of gospel music. Here was this young man that had no music and no thought of what the genre was, and yet the music still impacted him to the point of tears. And so for me, it was a reminder again of the power of this medium and why I need to continue to do what I'm doing. One of my auditions was extraordinarily touching because it was an international student from Korea, and she came in and in her broken English told me that she wanted to join the gospel choir. And of course I was very interested why. I asked her how long she'd been in Canada, and at that point she'd only been in Canada for 3 days. And apparently, I asked her how was her time been, and she said, not very good. I guess she hadn't been treated very well by some other students already. So I was feeling quite badly about that, and wanting to make sure that she felt good about her performance and her experience here, I asked her to talk to me a little bit about her knowledge of gospel music. And she said that when she was little, in Korea, a woman came to their English school and sang a song. And at that point, the song really impacted her. She just fell in love with it. And so she remembered it. And she decided that when she came to Canada, she would want to try to find a place where she could learn to sing this song. So I always ask students to sing songs for me that they're comfortable with. It doesn't matter what it is. And so she decided to sing this song that she remembered. And when she started singing it, I recognized it as a worship song. And I don't think she even understood what it was, but she just liked the song. After she finished singing the song, I thought to myself, well, she's got, some talent here. I think this is great. She needs to be in the gospel choir. And so she had a friend that came with her from Korea as well. And the two of them joined the gospel choir. And I tried to look out for them because I knew they couldn't speak English too well, and it was a new genre for them. After the first semester, they came to me and said they couldn't finish the course because they had a conflict and they would have to drop the course for that year. And I was kind of sad, but I thought, well, at least, they got a little bit in, and, perhaps they would do something with it. Well, at the end of the year, so this has been about 4 months since I'd seen them, just before our last concert, they both came to see me. And they brought me some Starbucks stuff, and I was like, wow, you're doing here? And they said, Professor, we just wanted to thank you for welcoming us to the school and for gospel choir. We really loved it, enjoyed it. We're so sorry we couldn't finish the course. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. So I didn't think I did much, but we took our picture together and big hugs and see them off. And I was thinking to myself, they're going to go back to Korea, and I'm wondering if they're going to search out gospel music again. And there is a gospel choir called the Heritage Gospel Choir in Korea, which is very popular. They do quite well. And I just think that it would be very cool if there was a connection, or at least if they searched it out. Because gospel music is not just here in Canada, it's not just in the States, but it's being felt all around the world.
After creating spaces in the community for gospel choirs at the post-secondary level, in 2013, I began the City Youth Gospel Project, which is a one-day gospel music event designed specifically for middle and high school choirs and their teachers. I appreciate teachers who continue to look for new ways to enhance their students' enjoyment of music.
It was awesome, and it was amazing. Just the response and the participation that Karen was able to elicit almost instantaneously was just inspiring.
beautiful. It actually was like music to my ears. It was awesome. Thank you. It was awesome and inspiring. Gospel music is my jam. To be honest, I never really was really into gospel music. I never really heard it live until now. And hearing it, just like it's so upbeat, like you want to participate, especially the dancing. It really got me into it. So like, I thought it was awesome. I loved it to death.
Over the past few years, we have welcomed hundreds of students to this event. I enjoy seeing students from across different parts of the Greater Toronto Area, different backgrounds, and varying ages and abilities respond to this genre with such enthusiasm. Days like this are extremely important. The sharing of gospel music in a mass choir setting has proven to be one of the best ways of allowing those unfamiliar with the genre to experience it for themselves. When I see how much fun students have in these first encounters, I am reminded how much I love this music and how passionate I am about sharing the songs, but also witnessing the other benefits. Our European tradition of choral music often stifles those more exuberant participants in our choirs. And for students who do not read music, this may be one of the first times that they will sing with confidence and pure enjoyment. The plus for teachers is that gospel music reinforces all of the things that we want for our singers: rhythm, harmony, listening skills, and precise enunciation. Gospel music also engages the whole body in what I like to call whole body singing.
With my whole heart, let all that I am praise the Lord. With my whole heart, and I won't forget the good things He has done for me. I wrote a little song and it just goes like this. Let all that I am praise the Lord. Let all that I am praise His holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget the good things He does for me. Let all that I am praise the Lord. Let all that I am praise His holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget the good things He does for me. Can you sing that with me? Let all that I am praise the Lord. Let all that I am praise His holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget the good things He does for me. Oh, that's wonderful. Sing it again. Let all that I am praise the Lord. Let all that I am praise His holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget the good things He does for me. With my whole heart, with my whole heart, as we praise him together, as we tell him that we're going to serve him with our whole heart. So I'm just going to get you to sing along with the choir. We're going to lift our voices to him. Amen. Let all that I am praise the Lord. Let all that I am praise his holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget the good things he does for me. Come on, keep singing. Let all that I am praise the Lord. Let all that I am praise his holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget the good things he does for me. Keep going. With my whole heart, with my all that I am praise his holy name. With my all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget all the good things he does for me. With my all that I am praise the Lord. With my all that I am praise his holy name. With my all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget all the good things he does for me. With my all that I am praise the Lord. With my all that I am praise his holy name. With my all that I am praise the Lord. I won't forget all the good things he does for me. My all that just keep praising him. Just keep praising him. Tell him who he is to you. With your whole heart, your whole being. We lift your name, Lord. We lift you up, Jesus. Oh, we bless your name, Father. We bless your name. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. With everything that we have, we lift your name up. You are worthy, you are worthy, you are worthy. Hallelujah. Jesus. Come on, sing together.